This is what Sue Gray says. Against the backdrop of the pandemic, when the government was asking citizens to accept far-reaching restrictions on their lives, some of the behaviour surrounding these gatherings is difficult to justify. At least some of the gatherings in question represent a serious failure to observe not just the high standards expected of those working at the heart of government, but also of the standards expected of the entire British population at the time. Sue Gray goes on. At times, it seems there was too little thought given to what was happening across the country in considering the appropriateness of some of these gatherings, the risks they presented to public health, and how they might appear to the public. There were failures of leadership and judgment by different parts of Number 10 and the Cabinet Office at different times. Some of the events should not have been allowed to take place. Other events should not have been allowed to develop as they did. It goes on, the excessive consumption of alcohol is not appropriate in a professional workplace at any time. Steps must be taken to ensure that every government department has a clear and robust policy in place covering the consumption of alcohol in the workplace. Let me go on. The use of the garden at Number 10 Downing Street should be primarily for the Prime Minister and the private residents of Number 10 and Number 11 Downing Street. During the pandemic, it was often used as an extension of the workplace, as a more COVID-secure means of holding group meetings in a ventilated space. This was a sensible measure that staff appreciated, but the garden was also used for gatherings without clear authorisation or oversight. This was not appropriate. Some staff wanted to raise concerns about behaviours they witnessed at work, but at times felt unable to do so. No member of staff should feel unable to report or challenge poor conduct where they witness it. And then it says the number of staff working in Number 10 Downing Street has steadily increased in recent years. In terms of scale, size and range of responsibility, it's now more akin to a small government department than purely a dedicated Prime Minister's office. The structures that support the smooth operation of Downing Street, however, have not evolved sufficiently to meet the demands of the expansion. So there's a lot of criticism there. Poor conduct is a phrase she uses. Some of these gatherings should not have happened. The behaviour surrounding these gatherings is difficult to justify. At times there was too little thought given to what was happening across the country, i.e. what the rest of the country had to do when it came to lockdowns and restrictions. Failures of leadership, failures of judgment by different parts of Number 10 and the Cabinet Office. The garden was used as an extension of the office, which was sensible, but then things changed. The garden was also used for gatherings without clear authorisation or oversight. And critically, some staff wanted to raise the alarm. Some staff wanted to raise concerns about behaviours they witnessed at work, but they didn't feel they could. So those are some of the findings of this limited report from Sue Gray. Limited, of course, because the Metropolitan Police asked her to take out key aspects of the report. Let me read you the conclusion. This is the conclusion of the scaled-back report. The gatherings within the scope of this investigation are spread over a 20-month period. A period that has been unique in recent times in terms of the complexity and breadth of the demands on public servants and indeed the general public. The whole of the country rose to the challenge. Ministers, special advisers and the civil service, of which I am proud to be a part, says Sue Gray, were a key and dedicated part of that national effort. However, as I have noted, a number of these gatherings should not have been allowed to take place or to develop in the way they did. There is significant learning to be drawn from these events, which must be addressed immediately across government. This does not need to wait for the police investigation to be concluded.